My name's Paul Johnny, and I'm interviewing Perry Louis on behalf of the Accidental Archivist Project, which is funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund. Perry, great to see you, mate.
Likewise.
So, I think you like me. You were born and bred in Luton. Came up in Luton.
I was born and bred in Luton. My parents came over from St Lucia, and was born in Napier Road, back of town, where a lot of the Caribbean families used to live all together, and we lived there, funny enough, until 1962, when my parents had this idea of getting themselves a house, and we moved to Trinity Road, number 4 Trinity Road, and I was there for 40 odd years.
My God! And so, what schools did you go to in those early days? Was it?
I went to William Austin Junior School, and
Right.
then I went on to Icknield High School in Reedy Lane. I know, funny days.
Funny days, yeah.
Funny
But-
days.
Did you? I mean, when you know, we all know you now as a dancer and stuff, but how did you get into the kind of the art world? And was that something through school or?
I think I've always been arty, or felt I was arty. I used to love drawing, and that's what my kind of first interpretation was, art, and making models and doing all sorts of things like that during school. But I was also always into music. Part of the things that I was exposed to in my younger life was music. That would always have a music for all occasion, and it would always had something that had brass instruments in there, which I didn't really understood what they was, but I liked the sound and liked the vibe coming from it. So, and then the other thing that I was into had a lot of energy, so sporting and being arty to keep me quiet and things like that, or music to keep me intrigued. They're the things that I remember most about growing up.
So the music came before the dance interest, really?
Yes, it did. When I remember the first kind of things that I went to, I used to remember people coming around the house when I was younger. We didn't have much furniture. There might be a table around there and a few chairs, but there was music being played in the other room, and there was always, the music always intrigued me, and even when they had little parties, I was always used to kind of crawl out of bed and kind of see what's going on and listen to people congregate and music going on, and that kind of created my first fascination. But I remember speaking to my godfather, and he said that when we used to live in Napier Road, he said that they used to have parties in the basement, and we were, as kids, we used to be playing together, and I thought, well, that's strange, because I must have been, 1 or 2 years old, and I remember us all playing together, but I couldn't remember where, but I always remember going down to the basement and there'd be music, so I couldn't, it took years to kind of understand the relationship, but I've always been interested in music, and when I used to see, the parents and their friends dance, and I was fascinated by that as well.
Yeah, because that's the kind of different kind of background to the, like, most sort of English families at that time. They were so isolated. They didn't have a social thing. People. I lived in a place where there was a lot of Irish families, and they would all get together. And, my parents would go. I was adopted, but my adopted parents would go, "Oh, I don't know, they've got people around again," and all this sort of stuff. And it's just a whole completely different background, isn't it? And stuff. So.
was really exciting because just around the corner there was an Irish family, and next door to us there was an English family. So we was always, kind of getting together, and if we had they had a family party, they'd all be coming in, and we'll be sitting there and introduced to our cousins and our friends and music, and so always grew up really being exposed to lots of different cultures, which I just thought was the norm. So yeah, it was quite funny. I think I recognised things were different. It's when I went to school. So when the teacher was asking what kind of music I listened to, and then I started proudly saying the music I listened to, they didn't have a clue, and I didn't have a clue about their music either.
Yeah.
So that was great, kind of like, wow, what's that? Yeah.
So I guess similar to me, there was no real formal kind of music stuff at school. It was.
No.
I remember at my school, you either did a language or you did kind of music or art. You couldn't do everything, and it was just crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of funny getting through the school days because once that they gave you an identity, then it was trying to see how you could fit in, and being sporty, not sense of wanting to belong, but just being inquisitive, and adventurous as well. I remember I was always playing football or going around to friends' house after school, and they would say, "Oh, does your parents know you're here?" And I said, "Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Oh, do you know how to get home?" "Of course I do." And then trying to get home and getting lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that a few times, and that kind of set you up to always trying to look for adventure or finding something to do, and not just staying in and just saying this is how it is, but finding what could be. And I think I always had that sense of adventure.
Yeah.
And that's what I've always been blessed with.
So when I first met you, I knew you as a dancer. So how did you get from the sporty lad interested in music into the dance thing?
I had them both together.
Yeah.
We actually go a lot further than that, because I remember 77, 76, I think you had been probably working at Marsh House.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a summer group. It might have been before that, actually. And I remember they started this series of, in the summer, having people coming to run play school afternoon sessions during the summer for a few weeks of the year.
Yeah, the play schemes.
Play schemes. Yeah. And then part of that, you could go to another play scheme, and I remember going down to Marsh House, and I remember you had a saxophone out, and I'd never seen one up close. You wasn't. You went for the door and you had to go upstairs to the offices, but I think it was just by the door coming through, and I remember seeing that, and it rung a bell, and then I think you used at Marsh House, you used to do some things with a massive ball, or you can get in and things like that. So
the old inflatables.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my God, man.
So, and then he disappeared, and then found you later at 33. But during those years, I was starting to go out clubbing, and I got a fascination for the music and the dance, and I don't know how I ended up, but ended up at 33 and was talking, and must have been 18, must have been quite young, because there was there was people there I knew when I went there, Steve Held, the drummer.
Oh yeah, Steve.
Yeah, because he ran for Ashcroft and I used to run for Icknield, and we raced each other.
Wow.
And and we became friends, but also it might have been association with Limby Boys Club because I used to play football for them. So there was a lot of these coincidental things that was going on, and it ended up being at 33, and it was quite interesting being at 33 because I was dancing and I was getting involved in dance, and I was clubbing, and I had my kind of ideas of what I thought it was, because I was being exposed to this underground culture, which funny enough was jazz, funk and jazz. And I remember at 33, Friday afternoon, it was a big band practice or jazz club, and I used to go in there and sit and listen and hear this music which I could relate to, but I couldn't join it up as yet. And then you had some musicians that I knew, Pete Churchill and Tommy Chase, and people that I'd come across through, some clubbing, and Dick Crouch.
Oh,
and,
blimey, yeah.
Yeah, Frank Holder.
Frank Holder, yeah.
And the people that I was being associated with through working with Jill Manley.
Yeah.
And it was, they all seemed to be separate worlds, but when I came to 33 they seemed to come together, and I ended up working with all those artists. And so when I came to 33 I came in as a dancer and excited by this underground world I was kind of living in, but also trying to learn about what could be possible, because I'm not sure that I understood where I was or what I fitted in, because I did some work where I was working with Stan Tracy, and I didn't think Stan Tracy liked me, because we did this thing for the Parliament, and I remember jamming with Anita Harris, and then he decided to speed the piano up, and which just played into my world really.
Of course.
And so I just ended up laughing and ended up just really dancing, and then Duncan Lamont approached me to do some work with him, and so it was a crazy period.
Yeah.
It was
Duncan. You mentioned Tommy Chase, but he was a complete madman, wasn't he?
Absolutely.
He was
Absolutely.
incredible drummer. And,
absolutely, but I got on very well with
yeah.
him. So it's it was an exciting world that I was being exposed to.
Yeah.
So when I came to 33, I was dancing in these different circles. Bullshead in Barnes, that's where I used to go.
Yeah, because Duncan would have been playing there, wouldn't he?
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was being exposed to that. So when I came to 33, I had this mad world that I didn't quite understand how I was getting involved in happening, but I was also chasing going out to the clubs at that time as well. So it was just nice to sit down and just reflect. But then when I was reflecting, then I'd bump into Steve, who was drumming at the time, brilliant drumming.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then bumping into all different art forms at 33, Bren doing the filming, which I didn't know about the filming until we walked up the stairs, and there's a whole filming unit and in the back there, and you could sit down and hang out and have your, then it was your salad and your vegetarian sausage roll.
Way before the time. Greg's made them.
Absolutely. Way before the time. We'd all be sitting there hanging out, and seeing what's going on, and artists be coming in, hat makers be coming in, because I had a hat made as well, because I was so into it. There was so much going on. So
Yeah, it was definitely a place where you could just meet people.
absolutely, absolutely.
So then you, I don't know how it actually occurred, but then you put a kind of workshop thing together, didn't you? You came into,
Yeah.
I picked up other dancers and stuff.
Yeah, but there was two things going on. There was, you ran a course where you had a dancer come in, and you said as a course you can learn some choreography, and I came in as part of that, and there was a few people. You had to audition, and I thought, well, let me have a go at it. And I went for the audition and I got the part. And I remember the guy I was talking to, he was saying, he was a choreographer at the time, and he said, I think I know you. And he says, well, you might do. And then he was talking about some clubs, and I goes, yeah, I know those clubs. And then it turns out that he knew me. He goes, what are you doing here? Well, I live in Luton. Well, what are you doing here? Well, I've been coming to 33 different projects on and off for years. And he goes, oh, really, you could be choreographing this. Because yeah, but I could learn from this. And remember doing the course, and then when the course finished, then you approached me to continue doing dance classes and things like that. And so we did a regular dance thing and had different ideas, and was working with the dancers with the team that was working with. Yeah.
And that core dances, was that what became JazzCotech?
No, that was separate.
Yeah.
Because I was doing that, then with the trade-off as well, I needed a place to rehearse, so I brought the JazzCotech dancers to rehearse on a Saturday afternoon.
Wow.
And there were dancers from Newcastle, from Birmingham, from London, from Luton, and brought them to rehearse at 33.
And was that prior to when you went to Holland with Muddy and Caroline?
It was prior to that, because the group JazzCotech was rehearsing once a month, and we'd do a full-on afternoon just exchanging ideas. In fact, I think I've got some videos of some of those rehearsals.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I have the VHS. Was it Betamax? I can't remember.
Yeah, we can convert anything.
Yeah. So
That'd
I've got
be great,
some.
to
Yeah,
see that.
I think I've got some videos of those rehearsals. And remember, Maddie was saying that we've got an opportunity to go to that, but it needed someone to lead them, choreograph them, get them ready, and to work with a choreographer that came over from Holland, which was Nita Lime, I think her name was. And she came over, she did a project, and then she said, well, I think we could get them to go over, and we have to, I think Caroline and Muddy put in for a grant for us to go over to Holland.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was really great fun.
Yeah. So was that the first, because you went on to work internationally, but was that the first time you went abroad with dancing? Or had you been before?
I've been before, because I won a dance competition, and I went to Paris, and I remember going over there for a few days. And so I had been before, but this was different because it was leading a group of dancers, getting them ready, getting them confident, making sure they knew what they was doing, and then going over to perform and join in with the proceedings out there. So it gave me different skills, getting the confidence of the dancers, and they knew me as a dancer from outdoors anyway, so that wasn't too hard to convince them, that I was up for the task. Plus, Muddy selected me, plus the choreographer, said, look, really, you could have done what I did.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, yeah, this could be interesting to use that as a skill, because I was thinking about a dance group, and I was thinking of what we wanted to do and how we wanted to work, and it became a lot clearer then, because it was, I joined up with jazz, and of course when you think about jazz, unless it's free jazz, it's got a structure.
Yeah.
So it enabled me to work with a structure to make it close to the music. So it was great educational for me.
So, I mean, it's really interesting because straight away you got involved artistically, but you also started to pick up the ideas that you have to organise things and do stuff, which was quite rare at the time, I think. And it's even rare now. I mean, musicians are starting to look after their own careers a bit, but this was early days, wasn't it? When you were doing this?
Absolutely. It was early days, and sometimes you get exposed to lots of techniques and you don't realise how they've become joined up. I was looking at ideas and wondering how I can get things to work and happen, and then suddenly, I mean, I've been down in London, there was that massive explosion which was happening during the time, which was acid jazz, and I remember I was right in the middle of that, and I ended up being the dancer for JazzCotech. But also with that, there was new bands coming through. There was Jamiroquai, there was Urban Species, there was Galliano, which were all the top kind of acid jazz bands.
Yeah.
Also, there was bands that we could go on tour, and so there was an opportunity there to kind of pull together some of the ideas that I had and working with these bands. I was also at the time, through a mutual friend clubbing, an opportunity arose that I can get involved in a photo shoot, and I ended up being on the front cover of the Mojo Club, their compilations. I ended up doing 10 of them.
Wow, yeah.
And that resulted in me going to Germany maybe twice a year and touring, but each tour would be 2 or 3 weeks long, and I'd do 17 dates and things like that. So that enabled me then to come back and focus on the group, and then formalise the ideas that I had for the group, and then try to get us booked.
Because the thing with James Taylor, that was, I may be wrong, but that was you as a solo dancer with.
Yeah, I did that in twofold, because I ended up, before I got attached to James, I went to Japan in '89, and I was dancing for a group called IDJ, called I Dance Jazz, which was London's first jazz dance group. And the funny story about that, at the time they was going to do a TV series called ITV Sport, and the guys who wanted to do that were friends of mine, and they was looking for a third dancer, and they asked me to do it, but also IDJ asked me to dance, and I knew both of them, because funny enough, the guys who was doing the dance group, which called Backstreet Kids, they used to come up to Luton, because they used to come and stay with me and a couple of friends. A friend of ours, she had a flat in Frederick Street, so we all used to go there, and that was before they were dancing. And me and a friend who lived in Dunstable, we used to show them all these dance moves. They ended up being one of IDJ's top dancers. Yeah. And Jerry, the guy who ran the dance group, he asked me before he started the group, would I join the group and dance with him, and I turned him down because I was running for Luton at the time, and we was winning races. We was winning all the leagues. We was in the Southern Men's League and the British League, and for 5 years we was unbeaten. And
wow.
I was doing 800 metres at the time and was winning races, and I was also the anchor man for 4x4 relay.
Wow.
So
I didn't know all this about your background then.
yeah, so I was doing that,
The
and
bit,
the funny thing is sometimes I'd be going out all night on a Friday night and then try and race on a Saturday, and sometimes you get away with it, but other times you couldn't. So I had to make a choice. So yeah, so I'm very, very much involved. And I remember when we was going to races, if we had to go to Plymouth or Edinburgh, we had these TDK tapes, and of course they were full of jazz.
Yeah.
So I used to say, oh, I've got a tape, and put it in, and I used to do their heads in. And I'd be like these happy, and they'd say, oh, you've got this jazz, take it off. So yeah, they're crazy times. So yeah, so I've been...
Because that whole, I mean, it doesn't seem it now, but at the time, the whole acid jazz thing was a real underground music, wasn't it?
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I had a job then. I had a part-time job working for local government management board. I got the job because of a friend of mine, Michael Christie. So, oh, they're looking for people, and it was just like an admin thing, nothing special. But what I loved about it was part-time. So I'd work till 12, and then I'd be out trying to get work, and then, or I'd go down and hang out acid jazz offices, because all the artists were coming in, and they was getting me records and stuff like that. It was in Denmark Street at the time, and then because I finished at 12, you was just starting the jam session, so I could come down on Friday afternoon. So I could always hang out. So it was nice little life, really. And I didn't, part of the acid jazz scene, what I liked about it, it gave me a second chance to enjoy going out to clubs again, listening to jazz. And what acid jazz allowed it, they mixed it in with soul, they mixed it with hip hop, they mixed it with new music of the day, and then created new music as the bands did at the time. So it was always fresh. The jazz reminded me of the predecessor, and that was Electric Ballroom, that was Jaffers, which was Paul Trouble Anderson and George Power, who became friends of mine. So I thought those days had gone. I thought that means you've got to go and get a job and it's all over. But it stopped, and I thought, oh, it's alive again. And so I had that kind of new chance to get involved. And I remember getting injured doing an athletics match and being frustrated and thought, ugh. And I had these tapes of me, and I didn't, I thought I'd moved away from the music. I had a back 2-3 year gap when I wasn't going out, but then I got reacquainted with it, and then that was it. I decided I wasn't going to lose it anymore. I was still working with the group and building things, and I was working with a local dancer, Pete Tormey, and we were dancing, doing 2 circuits. We was doing the traditional jazz circuit, because I got opportunity to work with Mark Murphy and so many British artists, which was unbelievable, who were coming through 33 as well. So when they came up, I knew they were coming up.
Coming up and come down.
Absolutely, I'd come down and we'd be sitting there listening to the music and chatting, and of course you'd be talking, they said, do you know Paul? I said, yeah. And Paul, do you know? And it was, for me, it was great because I was right in the middle of it.
Yeah, because your name cropped up the other week when I was with Ed Jones.
Yeah, oh, what a player. Brilliant player.
Yeah, incredible player. And he mentioned, he said, Perry's still around and all that, yeah. Because did you work with him in Japan? Because I know you used to go, I've forgotten the band name that they...
Yeah, I went there with Ray McVeigh Orchestra.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and so that was the cream of the cream of the British jazz musicians getting together, and that was amazing. 6 weeks in Japan.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it was amazing, But I also got to work with a lot of musicians because I was touring with James Taylor, and then sometimes I'd do a guest or trying to hustle, get on the stage with Jamiroquai, because Jamiroquai used to come to the clubs and we used to do stuff in France where he'd be the artist, we'd be the dance group, and then getting involved with Jazz FM as they started. They keep talking about it, but I've got the original video that launched Jazz FM, because they came and filmed me at home, me going down to Jazz FM, and I've got a video with Chris Phillips, would have been Courtney Pine, and it would have been Galliano, all being filmed, and we was all being filmed together, and it was me and Pete Torme. I think the strangest thing about that was like saying to my dad, "Oh Dad, yeah, we're going to have a camera crew coming round." Because I thought, well, they want to film me getting up. What? Yeah. So my dad's watching this all happen, and then going down to London, and working with these bands, and then being associated with all these DJs, because at the time some DJs, I was working a lot with Kev Beadle. I used to follow Ed Pillar, who was Mr. Acid Jazz. I used to follow Giles Peterson, because we used to go to a lot of events up and down the country with him, and we'd be as his dancers, as well as and then what I found, the way to get grounded was to come and sit in a cafe.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So that's what I used to do, because I had all this going on, and it was a different world. And what I found is that, how do you explain that to people, what's going on, if they don't understand it? The music was rife, but at the same time, when I was trying to explain it, through James Taylor, we was doing the TV programs like The Word and the Gary Cowley Show and all these people, those shows, and then I was being exposed to Blur and all these artists, so I'd be in there chatting to them and sitting there with them, and all I could think of, well, yeah, I can't wait to get back to 33 so I can sit down to not even chat with people, just to make heads, because it was the quickest way of grounding. There was two ways that I could ground myself: one, go running, and two, sitting in a cafe. Yeah. Because you could lose yourself and watch everything else going on. And what I loved about 33, it exposed me to art and artists, but also how to access art, or how to create art, and how to support what you're doing. Because ended up, working with Caroline, and we ended up putting on jazz days at South Bank down in London. And at the time, the events that we did kind of, we come up with this idea to do a focus on jazz, or focus on fusion, or focus on dance. And we ran art classes, we did dance classes, we did talks on what's it like to work in the industry, and we put bands on, and we put clubs on, so we united the whole thing together. And I don't think I'd have got those ideas and how to structure that without working with 33, and especially with Caroline, and sitting there and just like, I've got an idea, and Caroline's like, okay, what do you want to do? And I'm like, wow. And her role as an arts admin assistant was crucial to what I'm doing now, so I understand. I've got more of an idea now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the beauty there, is that nowadays you have to trawl through so many kind of obstacles before you can
It's horrible.
make your ideas come to life. But there, the idea came, and it was a question of, oh, that's a good idea, we'll make it happen. And
that's what you did.
Yeah, that's what you did, and we didn't think about it. And I know the people down there didn't think about it in terms of, that just seemed to be the logical way to do things, and miss all that now, the way it works now.
The funny thing about that is that you are way ahead of the game, and I'm not doing it to blow smoke. It's this, what I've done. Not many people know this, but I just did an MA, and I graduated last year.
Cool.
So. And part of that learning was the process of the ideas, and linking the ideas, and researching the ideas, and what they call is intrinsic, and it's only something they're actually now realising is it's an approach that not many people use, and that was very progressive, and they're only starting to research that now. And what they said about my approach is very intrinsic, and it's very, forward and progressive, and really that's what you was doing 30, 40 years ago. And I adopted some of that approach because I was exposed to that through working with Caroline and you guys giving the opportunity, and because your approach was, well, that sounds like let's have a go. And it wasn't like, no, you can't, you can't, this, wasn't too far-fetched. It was like, that's a good idea, let's see how we can make it happen. And that was the approach, and that's the intrinsic way.
Yeah, I think it comes from the days when administrators were basically creative people as well, and that's what's been lost nowadays, in my view, is that
correct.
Yeah, people ticking boxes, and
absolutely.
Don't want to delve into all that now, but I think it's this kind of top-down approach doesn't work.
No, it doesn't, because what we learned within the structure, a lot of the people that came into the arts, they came in because they meant well, but there was always going to be there for a short period of time, and then someone else came in and took the place, and you started again. We learned that through Eastern arts. People at the top stay for a long time, but people in the administrative world roles came through for a little time, then they moved on. And then you had to start again, then you had to reintroduce yourself, and then you had to talk to them about what you did. And it was almost like there wasn't a file that was transferable. And I was thinking, oh my word, so that's how it's going to be. And learnt then this could be a possibility. And then what we found, that seemed to be the way going forward. So every time you went there after a few years, and like, who are you? Well, I'm like, oh yeah, where are you from? Where are you based? Oh yeah, you can speak to this person, and then they'd be gone, and you start again.
Yeah, it's reinventing the wheel.
Absolutely.
All the time. It's where it keeps us back,
Yeah. So you had to do anything, you had to find a way yourself, or fund it yourself, and that's what I thought. You know what? I'm just going to enjoy this, and I'm just going to do it regardless, and then see what happens. Yeah. And that's what I've always done.
And your dance career's gone on, but you also do a lot of DJ work now, don't you? And stuff and.
That's the funniest thing. It's
I mean, just going back quickly, so because the Jazz Cafe was at the old place, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Is that where you started with the jazz?
Incredible.
Yeah.
I got involved with the Jazz Cafe. First of all, there was a group called Into Something. Into Something worked with Giles Peterson. They were a production company. Jez Nelson ended up working on with BBC One, BBC Two, hosting their science program. But they were jazz DJs, and they worked for Kiss FM, and then they were instrumental in starting Jazz FM, first DJs. And I knew them going to their club nights, and I was working with bands at the time. There were two promoters. The first promoter I came across at the Jazz Cafe was John Dabner.
Yeah, he went to Manchester in the end, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
He ran the Jazz Cafe. And they did an all-day, and I came in as their dancers, and then me and Fiddler took it over, and there was a new promoter who was into the whole acid jazz scene and collector, and he was booking for a few of their venues. And then I remember going there, being booked to dance for James Taylor Quartet, and you can imagine, the size of the cafe, and it was completely sold out, and I was dancing for them, and we had a week residency there, and then at the end of the residency, I think I called Jazz Cafe up because they did have some club nights, and I went there, and within an hour it'd be empty, And I said, I think after a couple of times of trying, they said, "I'll come in for a meeting." And I said, "Look, I've got an idea for a club night. We should do something that involved dance." And I think I didn't have a clear idea what I wanted to do, but I knew that it needed something that would unite the dancers, have the music going. In London at the time, they moved away from the jazz funk and the jazz. They were bringing in the modern music. It was drum and bass, it was trip hop, and it was all stuff. And although it was progressive, it wasn't my sound.
Yeah.
So I just said, well, it'd be great if we can create something like that. And then he said, well, would you be interested in doing a Saturday night? And I said, what, a Saturday night at the Jazz Cafe? And he said, yeah, after the bands. And I said, okay. And he said, you can get dancers involved, you could, make it a trendy place and making it the go-to place. And I thought, right. And I had to go away for a couple of days. I've been booked to do a show outside the country. And I came back and I phoned a good friend of mine, which was Andy Hobdale, because we were doing clubs together. We was going to all the trendy clubs and everything was going. We was doing ding walls and everything was going on, which was challenging for him because first of all he was in the RAF and then he left that to go to university to study, become a lawyer. And of course I'm taking him out and he's tired all the time because we're going up and down the country and stuff. And then we've got this opportunity to start a club, and which we liked because we liked Jazz Cafe anyway.
Yeah.
Been to see a few stuff, and I performed there a few times. And London didn't have anything going on at the time. And I thought, well, could get a few of my DJ friends or my favourite DJs involved, especially if they're fronting up the money.
Yeah.
And could have somewhere the dancers could go on a Saturday night. So went back and they wanted a name, and I went through some of the albums that I had because I had the opportunity to go to all these different countries working with the Mojo Club. I was buying records and then bringing them home, and those days you didn't get stopped for bringing music or stuff, and you could bring loads back. So I went away with a bag of clothes and come back with 2 bags of records and a bag of clothes, and was collecting. And then because I was up down the country with some DJs like Snowboy, we can go record shopping or clothes shopping, and I'll bring them back. So I was developing this collection, and although I had this notion of becoming a DJ, I didn't really take it really seriously, because I knew so many great DJs, and I knew the top DJs in the country, so how could I pit myself against them? And it was kind of like, I remember when I got to the cafe and then I came up with this name called Messing Around. It came from a 1972 album, Burning Atlanta, and had this track called Spirit of Atlanta, or Messing Around, and it was a 9-minute piece. It was funky, it was groovy, and I thought Messing Around was the apt name. So I went back. So I went back to the cafe. I called them. I said, "Yeah, I've got a name," and they said Messing Around. He goes, "That's a great name." He goes, "Yeah," and then they said, "Okay, well, what DJs do you like?" Oh, blimey. I said, "Okay, I know a couple of DJs. I think I could front it, and then if we can have a guest list, we can bring lots of dancers in and make it a cool place. We could develop it." And so went back. Messing Around was the name, and it was going to be a Saturday night at the Jazz Cafe, and we was going to bring our friends to the club. We'll get different DJs playing. I didn't DJ at the time, I just wanted to dance.
Yeah.
My notion, I just wanted to dance. And we was running it, and what we found frustration was that some of the DJs weren't playing the sound that we thought they could or should. And it was them saying, well, yeah, but you're not a DJ, you don't know what it's all about. And then I said, well, maybe we should start to DJ them. I'd already been DJing at some places in Luton or some parties, but I didn't take it seriously because I just wanted to dance. I wasn't interested in DJing. And then one of the artists I DJ'd for, and I came with my little box of records and I played at the JazzCotech, and I enjoyed it. And what I found is that people were asking about the things that I was playing and where I got this knowledge, and you must have been clubbing at this certain point, you must have gone here. And then funny enough I said, yeah, actually I did go to that, and I did go to that, and then, oh, you're the dancer. I goes, yeah, you dance. Goes, and you DJ? Well, you could say that. And then it started to develop from there. And then I kind of did some more guest slots, and then because we had our own promotion, decided, right, actually the guest DJ could come in later, we'll do the early slot. And what I learnt by doing the early slot, from 7 till 9 before the band came on, you could build up an atmosphere. You could watch people coming in, you could see them sitting down and they're waiting and waiting. So we can change that by getting some dancers coming in, because the dancers want to hear specific things to make them dance. And we found that there was a lot of people who were interested in music and interested in the DJ culture and music generally, even though they were there for the band. But you could build the atmosphere up, and if you built it to a certain point, by the time the band come in, you'd have the place jumping and people screaming. So we developed a way in how to process that. And then because we was doing it on Saturday night, then we was getting asked to do it during the week, and then we got asked to do it different things, and then their different events, and so it started to build up from there.
Yeah, because the Saturday thing must have been an all-nighter in the end, wasn't it? Almost.
It was amazing, because it ended up, you were there from 7 o'clock and finished then at 2 o'clock. Yeah. You'd play before the band, and then the band being, and then we had the guest DJing, because then we was doing a dance show, and it was quite interesting about the dance show. We'd pick a team of dancers. Whilst the DJ was doing his thing, we'd select the music that we wanted to dance to, and then we go and choreograph upstairs, and then come and do a show.
Oh, well, so it's all fresh and just put together.
Absolutely. I'd go away and do the notations of what we wanted and come up with a little routine to put it together, and then we'd go and do the show. Yeah. But before we did that, we wasn't on stage, we'd just go and dance in the corner and jam. And then we got on stage, and then you could see there was an interest, so we started to develop it. Then we started dressing up, because we had two ways that we worked it. We had Saturday night, which was the club promotion, and then the JazzCotech dancers get booked to do different shows. So that what I did, I brought them all together, and then we started rehearsing together. And then we started rehearsing. We moved down to London to rehearse at the time, because they closed 33 down, and we wanted to rehearse in Luton, and it was cheaper to rehearse down in London.
Yeah, I guess some of those dancers London based anyway.
London based as well, so it was easier for us. So there's a couple of us go down, and so we were rehearsing in London.
So how big was that group in the end? Because you presumably picked from a pool of people, didn't you?
Yeah, we picked from a pool of people. It became very big because Christiana was then started working as an arts officer, and she started running dance classes down in London as a dance officer. Yeah. And then we started running some classes up in Luton, and we formed two groups. We had a JazzCotech Juniors, where everybody was younger than 16 years old. The youngest was about 9.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
some came from Essex, and they came to rehearse on a Saturday afternoon, which Christiane did, all down in London. I would rehearse the senior group, and then what we did, we ended up having about 15 of us.
Wow.
So it was kind of crazy, because sometimes we'd have a night at the Jazz Cafe, then we'd have it could be an international date, so I could take 2 teams out, choreograph 2 shows, and then take 2 teams out. One would be an international duty or national duty, the other would look after the club and do a performance there. Christiane would stay back and look after the club, or Andy would stay, look after the club and the dancers, and I'd take the other group out.
So it could be like 3 JazzCotech things going on at the same time.
At the same time.
It's like the old big bands, you know, that used to go out 3 different bands, you know,
3 different bands,
yeah.
Sometimes different countries at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I was doing that.
It's a crazy jazz world, that one.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, we got to work with everybody, from different circuits, from, when I was just thinking about that the other day, because I was playing some of his music. Mark Murphy, he would call me, Perry, I'm coming to town, I've got some dates, might be a Rhythmic Club or Pizza Express, because they had that late jam session. And he goes, are you around? I'll be here in the weekend. He goes, brilliant. Mark Murphy just called me. He goes, yep. So I'll meet up with Mark, and we'd be jamming, or I'd be dancing for him, and it was just incredible what I was doing. And then but to come back to ground, I'd either go running, because you got tired very quickly, you couldn't hide away from that, or go and sit down in the cafe and or I go. Then what I'd started to do, go and sit down in Camden and sit at the cafe, just to hang out.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, it's crazy that you still live in Luton.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I mean, I've never left really.
No.
Stay in different places for a little while and then.
Just got used to travelling.
Yeah.
Just got used to travelling.
So convenient, I mean.
Yeah, got used to travelling, because at that time trains ran all night, so long you can get back into Luton.
Yeah, milk train after Ronnie's.
Milk train, absolutely. Just inch its way back. So you just got used to literally what I called it as being on the road.
Yeah.
Because if you're on tour, you're going from town to town, and there was no kind of timing. You finish your gig and you might have to go to Holyhead to catch the ferry to go over to Ireland, and then be travelling all night. Or if you was going to Japan, you could be travelling for 3 days. So you just got used to travelling, so it made no difference. So I thought, well,
stay where we are, for sure.
Absolutely, because I was always on the road. So yeah.
And the beauty, the beauty about you, given your career and all that stuff, and you have travelled the world. It's amazing you're still proud of Luton, but actively still trying to do stuff in Luton. And I know you put on gigs with kind of unplugged gigs in a way, but big names who do things through your contacts come and do stuff in Luton.
I think I looked at it as this. I remember being very, very young, and I remember going to the zoo, and I was there, and I think I was there with my sisters, I was there with quite a few people, and I was the only guy there, and I was walking around the zoo, and there were all these people running around. This guy came up to me, he goes, wow, you seem content. I goes, well, yeah, I'm out. And he goes, yeah, and started chatting to me. He ended up giving me 50p.
Right.
And then he walked away. And I'm good, I'm thinking, well, got some sweets, I was happy, content, went back. And then I remember there was these guys from their running club. There was Pete and Dave Ford, and there was John O'Callaghan. He was a coach. He was coaching me for a while before I went on to different coaches. And then there was, people that I was training with who encouraged me. In the athletics, I didn't reach my potential. It was more of a mental issue than a physical issue. But I also recognised I had music in my head and I couldn't get away from it, But the moral is I was always being encouraged. And I think if it wasn't for 33 or having someone to expose me to different artists and get me to understand the concept of art and artist, it was that reaching out. And I thought, well, I remember John Hegley coming back to Luton, and the artists always coming back to Luton, Steve Dillon coming back to Luton, and they always came back and they always gave something to Luton. They didn't have to,
no.
And they always did.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, in that will resonate with me. And I thought, you don't have to talk about who you are, it's about what you can give back. And so I was always helping others to reach their potential, because I recognised if I wasn't helped or being exposed to these different worlds, then I would not been able to go and do what I did. So I've always been doing that. I've always done it quietly, because what people don't recognise is that with some of the establishments in Luton, without our involvement, they won't have the programme that they have now.
No, that's true. Yeah.
They still won't acknowledge this is what we've done, but we've never tried to get acknowledgement for that. We've always tried to encourage, and we keep trying to find a way to help, because being on tour sometimes I used to bump into Luton musicians and who I knew from school or clubbing, and we used to just laugh and thinking we're from Luton and we're always going to go
people
back.
like Cutty and
absolutely
Carlos
right.
the drummer who works with all the big names.
Robert Skins.
Yeah.
I used to bump into them on the tour circuits, and they used to see where I've been, and I'd see where they've come or been, and we used to come back. And funny enough, we're at 33, we'd bump into each other, sit
really
down.
Crazy.
So we knew then that we were privileged, and we also knew we was proud of the town for various associations that I tried to do with the town. And I thought the best way to do things is not talk about it, is to do it.
Yeah, I think that's all the people we've mentioned, and a lot of people in that world, they don't have an ego. They just get on and do the work. That's what they do.
That's what we learn.
And I think that's what we all learn at a young age. You just
absolutely
do what you do. And
you got to imagine, I remember sitting down and it was kind of Johnny Lytle coming up to me, and he says, I've seen your groove. I know where you sit. I know where you live. And he goes, well, what do you mean? He goes, go and check out this album. Go and listen to this. Go and listen to that. And I went back and I went, wow, it was right there, because I was into groove. I can create rhythms within rhythms, because I'm always listening, I'm always trying to put into something. Then I start singing to myself, and I sing badly, by the way, but I could create rhythms and I could dance to it, and I had that skill, which was different. And then so, but they took time to speak to me, and sometimes you got to imagine when you're sitting there and you're talking either to Pucho from the Latin Soul Brothers, or you're talking to Idris Mohammed or Melvin Sparks, and then you're talking to all these people, and you're like, hang on, okay, I know my mouth is moving, I can see what I'm seeing, but how can I relate to this? And then go back and say, oh yeah, do you have a good weekend? Wow. And one of the funniest stories is that we did the support for James Brown, and two stories come to mind. The first one, after the first night doing support, because he did a couple of nights and we supported both nights, got on the tube and sitting on the tube with Andy and Christiana. We're sitting there. No, she went the opposite direction, just me and Andy. And we were just completely spaced because we were just trying to take in what happened, you know. And then some guy sitting opposite on the tube, he goes, "You guys look like you just had a brilliant night." And we looked at each other and just said, "Actually, you're right. You could say that." Yep, we did. And we said nothing to the rest of the tube, and then got on the tube and got on the train to get up, you know. And then we were trying to resonate on that. And it was just incredible because we was like, okay, there's one of my hit lists was, I'd love to work with James Brown. And we did that very early on in our careers, and thinking, where do you go from there?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
You know, it wasn't over, you didn't reach any heights, and yet you achieved this. And I thought, just got to keep on going and see where it leads.
Yeah.
You know, and this is because of associations and being introduced to them, people saying, "Oh, we'd love you to do this," and building that association and thinking, "Oh, well, if Luke want to do something, how could we help?" You know, and then we was bringing our friends in the association, because there's something was sort of what you did. You was bringing people up because you could call them up and bring them into the jam sessions, and it was just using those kind of ideals to say, well, actually, you've worked with them, they're your friend, you know, you've been hanging out with them, you've been speaking to them, you've gone for a drink with them and things like that, or you stayed in shared rooms with them, and it's like, oh, well, look, I've got an idea. Oh, would you want to come? Oh, yeah, we'll do it. Look, you know, this is only for a small thing. No, well, we trust you, and that's how it came about.
Yeah.
And that's what.
Yeah, it's all about trust at the end of the day.
It's trust.
Yeah.
It's trust. It's a unique thing that builds, you know, with people getting to see you and see how you work and getting to know you, and then they come and work with you, and that's how we try to do it.
Yeah, I think like without getting maudlin, but one of the things is, as you get older, one of the things you think that a lot of young people don't get is that idea of trust, because
absolutely,
you know, I think it's one downside with all the social media. You don't interact with people in the same way, and
no,
you know, so.
No, you don't. The social media is a new way of working if you understand how it works, and young people seem to be on that. But most of the things that made things happen is that you was all in a space together, and 33 allowed that to happen. The youth club structure allowed that to happen, and by various governments taking that away, then young people have got nowhere to socialise or be creative, because being creative is just people sharing ideas.
For
and
sure.
People build
So
them.
lots of
They've
people
taken
stuck
that
in
away.
their bedrooms, aren't they?
Absolutely, they're stuck in their bedrooms because this world seems to be designed to keep containing people and not getting out. And yes, there's these forms you can get there and you can exchange, but a friend of mine said to me just at the weekend, it's not healthy to lock yourself away. You need to be out, and you need to have real time, you know, contact, and you know, and he's right in that sense. But you've got to manage that. You've got to be able to go to those places that you can have those conversations. That old-fashioned.
The old-fashioned way.
The old-fashioned way.
The old
Getting out.
Old school.
Absolutely. They say old school, but it's not old school.
No,
it's
how it should be,
communication.
yeah.
It's getting out, getting to a bar and sitting down, exchanging ideas and saying, that's a good idea, let's try and make it happen.
Yeah.
And those virtues are being destroyed because, you know, there's too many people in a hurry to develop these things, and then they go back and say, well, it's not as good an idea as it was. We made loads of money from it, but actually the old way is the better way, and the old-fashioned way is, I'm not sure why they call it the old-fashioned way. The old-fashioned way is just getting together, sitting down, exchanging ideas.
Yeah.
And what they did in some of those centres, and people coming in who don't understand those concepts, is destroying it because they don't know how it works.
No.
Because they have never been that sociable in themselves.
No. And then that's where the box tickers come along.
Absolutely. Do this, that works, and that, well...
Anyway, how do you see the next part of your life? What are you going to do?
Well, the next part of my life, I want to... I don't know if it's laying down a foundation, but I certainly want to be able to create a platform to encourage others to be able to become what they want to become.
Yeah.
You know, exposing them to what I can give them. Maybe it's dance, maybe it's DJing, maybe it's admin. Well, I get someone else to do the admin part. But giving and encouraging them to realise that they've got potential and they can chase their potential. I can do that by doing heritage on clubbing culture, dance culture, because I've come from club culture, but I've been on theatre and I've been stages around the world, I've been in film, I've done all sorts, and I've become an international jazz DJ, which is kind of a byproduct of just wanting to dance. But also, I've also kind of become a club promoter. Also, I've done live promotion. I've done it on a small scale, but I've been doing it for years, and now looking to look at putting on maybe festivals, you know, or conventions, which I've done in the past. So it's understanding and bringing that together and developing that. And I think what I'd like to be able to do, not just do that, but also show that there's, you know, people can get involved in that, or aspects in that, or become artists, and give them a route to be able to do that, and leave that as encouragement for young people.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of talented young people out there who haven't got a clue where to go and how to do it.
That'd be great, man. If you do that, it's like a legacy for the work we did in the early days anyway.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Continue the work that you guys started.
Yeah.
You know,
Be perfect.
and find out what is the best route to do that.
Yeah.
You know, is that through Perry Lewis, and you know, or does anyone know who Perry Lewis is? Because not many people know what I've done, because I hadn't really told anyone until this interview.
Yeah.
You know, because I've been living, it's the way I've been living, you know, and I'm still doing that and working on with the university to create a heritage project that's going to tell some of the stories of the club culture in Luton, linking to the national culture, into the international thing, because that's what we've been doing, and that's what Luton's been a part of.
Yeah, that was your journey, man.
Yeah, that's been a journey.
It should be documented.
Yeah. So
that's why we do this stuff, I think.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's, you know, me as Perry Lewis, I mean, if I'm not sure what people would believe if they now looked into this and said, what, you was doing all that, and I was doing a lot more.
Yeah.
You know, I've just been living that way for a good few years. I mean, still in touch with a lot of those promoters, and sometimes they do call me to do stuff, but then I've been running together with a team, a jazz dance club, you know, specifically for jazz dance, and it's in its 22nd anniversary. You know, the night we did at the Jazz Cafe run every Saturday night for 13 years.
Yeah, that's got to be a record.
It's a
internationally,
record.
isn't it, as well, for any venue.
We're the most featured artist ever in Jazz Cafe's history. The most photographed jazz dancer in the UK scene. They did 30th anniversary of Acid Jazz, and they brought together a lot of the musicians that featured in that. They ran an exhibition. They tried to bring exhibition to Luton, which wasn't very successful because I think personally it was poorly promoted.
Right.
But when we went to the London exhibition, they actually, the designers of that, they said, well, the funny thing is they was going up and down the country interviewing people, getting memorabilia and memorabilia, and in there, in the clubs, guess who's in the middle? Perry Lewis,
Yeah.
you know, or working with this band, and I was right in the middle of the story, you know. And the funny thing is, when they didn't interview me, they interviewed me as a DJ, and not what I was doing at the time was dancing, which was kind of, so they didn't even get the complete story.
Sure.
So, which I was laughing, I guess, well, that was a bit short-sighted, because they saw me as the promoter and DJ, even though they started to touch on the club sessions I was doing.
I mean, all of that work comes from being a creative person and carrying it forward.
And that's what I learned, that I was a creative person, you know, because my mind doesn't stop. It's on 24/7 about ideas, how to make things work and be better.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be in this world thinking you're a 9-to-5 person, can you? So
What is that, a 9 to 5?
that's where a lot of the current sort of arts admin people and the funders think, you know, it's all the...
Yeah, 4 days a week.
4 days a week,
or
you know.
twice, you know, Mondays and Wednesdays,
Yeah.
and that's crazy, because I did an event at Southport Weekender, and we did a jazz takeover. So we ran the jazz room from 12 midday till 7 o'clock at night, and part of that, we had a band coming from Italy that we got the festival to book and run it part of our event, and then we had some international DJs who came to hang out with us, and one of them was Louis Vega, and I sent him some photographs yesterday, and then he sent me a text that goes, "Oh, I'm playing at Fabric. I haven't been to Fabric in years." And he said, "I'm going to be doing a disco vinyl set," because he knows I play vinyl. Because "Oh, it'd be great to see you there." And I thought, "Oh, that sounds great. What time is it?" 3 o'clock in the morning till 6. And I'm like, "Oh no, do I really want to go?" But I like Louis and I want to book him for my events, so I might
do that, yeah.
might
You would do it, man. I know you.
That's the thing. So I'm like, oh, well, I'll answer it later, depending, because, you know, I've been booked to play down in London, and then I've got a jazz jam at the Bear Club on Sunday. Plus, once I've done that, I know we're going to go out, but then I've got to record a radio show for Monday to go out. So I'm like, right, that was unexpected. So I might contact him, and if he puts me on the guest list, then I'll drive down to London and go and say hi, and then come back home, you know.
You won't leave till 3.
Well, exactly, but remember, there was this jazz book I wrote, an alto sax player, what was his name, Mesa 40 or something like that, and what he said in the book, which I remember, that really stuck in my mind, it said jazz life, and a jazz life is a different life. And then when working with some musicians who took me aside and said, when you get involved in this life, there's no rhyme or reason. You either follow it or you don't. And if you don't follow it, then you don't know what it could be. If you follow it, then you don't know where you're going to end up.
Yeah.
So there's no particular path. And I always remember that, and I thought, well, that's how I'm going to be, and that's what I'm going to do, and you never know where you're going to end up.
No, and you take it into the other parts of your life, don't you, that world as well. So.
Absolutely, because I've ended up in incredible places. I remember doing a promotion for Diesel, and I can't remember how I got involved in Diesel. And I remember they wanted us, they said, oh look, we've got this party, we're going to have part of a fashion show, and we're going to have this after party, probably when I was doing Messing Around Days, and could you bring your dancers in and have some of your DJs, and I booked these DJs to play and being part of the night. The night finished about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's, oh yeah, they're all going back. It's, oh, do you want to come to a party? Ended up being in a party in the middle of Mayfair. I didn't know where I was, but I was on this apartment where they was having these drinks, and then and I'm thinking, oh, actually, how am I going to get home? Having this drink, and it's, oh yeah, oh you can stay now, I've got to get home because I've got this thing to make. And it's, okay, they called us in a cab, got in a cab, got to the train station, caught the train, got there, got a cab home, and thinking, what happened? And then going back the next day to think, oh yeah, can you come, oh we're going to go to this restaurant. And I remember going to this restaurant, it was down just Oxford Street, and going to this Oxford Street, and then they caught me off the floor because there was this film star was eating downstairs, and we had the top floor, they had the next floor down, and it happened to be Robert De Niro, so we were upstairs, and then they were talking about dance, and they said, oh, will you dance for us now? I goes, where? He's got, on this table. Hang on, you want me to dance this table? And I remember the people at the restaurant saying, oh yeah, be careful that table, it's expensive. And he goes, okay, how expensive? Like something like 200 grand or something. It was an art piece, and I'm dancing this table thinking, if this break, you'll not be able to afford this. And the guy's saying, don't worry, we'll pay for it. I don't know, it was just incredible places I was finding myself in because I followed, and then getting back and then tried to work out where I'd been or what happened, and great because of Christiana or Andy, they'll be bringing back down to earth and said, where are you now? And then I'd tell them the story, and then you kind of try to ground yourself, because grounding then, oh yeah, we're at the cafe tonight, or let's go and hang out here, and I'll be there with these artists, and I got to know so many artists, but also budding artists that was coming through, because through that got involved with the IAJE, which was happening in New York, so I'll go to New York, and then I'll be exposed to the artists then, hanging out with the artists over there who was running some of these festivals, or they were associated with these music institutions, and that we wanted to know about this dance culture, and I'll be telling them about it, and then getting further invites to go. So I was just all over the place.
Did you ever write things down?
I didn't. It was always memories, because, there was happening thick and fast, and I was going from one thing to the other. And I didn't think about writing it down because my memory is quite good, my long-term memory. And then I've had a few people say, look, you should write a book, or you should, document this down. And I thought, well, I chose not to, because I don't want it to be about me. Because I know, and I always believed, if it wasn't for places like 33, then I would not been encouraged to have this journey. But it wasn't just 33, it was the John O'Callaghan's, it was that guy who gave me 50p at the zoo. Sure. Yeah. All these people that encouraged me and exposed me, that there's these things outside, then getting into London, hanging out with all these incredible stars, and now I'm becoming this jazz DJ that everybody knows, who's doing it his way, you know, because I play vinyl. I've got CDs and things, but I don't take them out. And I've got a jazz show on this big station, and I'm wondering what I'm doing there, because I'm doing a specific genre, dancehall jazz, which is, you know, everybody plays jazz, and they've got, but I'm making it about people dancing to jazz, because that's where I've come in. And I've been encouraged to do that, and they're kind of liking the flavour, and I don't understand what I'm doing yet, because I haven't got my head around what it is that I'm doing, what I've got.
But that's the whole jazz life, isn't it? It's a bit of an accident, mostly. So
there you go. You follow your nose, you know. You follow your nose, and then you end up being in these places, and you know, working with these bands because of the concept that you get introduced to. Working with Jazz FM, where we was doing education, where we was teaching people about jazz dance, jazz culture within jazz, and bringing it together. And I worked with them over 10 years, going to over 200 schools, teaching about this UK jazz dance thing, you know, for them. And I've recently, from an associate of mine, who said, well, we should try and do that again. And I said, well, maybe we should be able to do that as a schools project in Luton, speaking to you know, the councils. So I've just set up JazzCotech as a kick, and just working with Wenta so that we can try and get grants so that we can do all these educational programs plus festivals, and that's what we're going to look into doing. But I've always done things quietly and politely, because one thing I've learned, if you can't do it as you, and then you shouldn't be doing it at all.
No, because then it's not true to yourself.
You're not true to yourself.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And that's what I've always tried to do. So I've always done it quietly and tried to learn. And now I've kind of got these kind of qualifications that it's on quite a high level, so I can have and sit down and have these conversations.
Yeah, you can come back from the conventional way that people did it, but with all this other stuff.
Absolutely. Because most people you come in to discuss and speak to, they've always BAs, and they look down at you. Then I'm going to come in and say, oh, you can try and look down at me, but when I've got experience and plus I'm qualified. So let's have a conversation now. And let's do it about the art form, and not what you think that you can try and sell me because you want to tick a box. And that's how I do it. That's the next journey that I'm going to try and introduce, and see what that can result in. So I've always been proud being a Lutonian, but I've also been proud to be associated with organisations like 33 that helped open art to a lot of different people at the same time, whether you're into punk or jungle or jazz or artwork, or someone, you know, who their minds were so wide out there with their art. So we all get there, but we was all artists in our own right, coming together because we loved being part of 33.
Yeah, and it was a community, and I think
what a community you had.
Yeah.
Nowhere else you get that.
Thanks so much, man, for talking to us.
It is mad. I mean, we're still living it. We're not out in the clubs every day of the week as we were. Probably can't anyway. But we're still active, and no one knows the heritage of what Luton had as a community, because they all looked out for each other, and they all supported each other, and they're all proud of each other for doing their own art. But they also knew where to find each other, which doesn't exist as much as it does.
No, that
then.
whole sharing community, it's very hard now, and that's why, you know, the work you're doing in that, it carries on that tradition. It's really important. Man.
Yeah,
We should have this conversation in another 10 years and see.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
where we are.
It'd be interesting, you know, are we going to be allowed to excel? Will they understand this is what we've been doing, what we've been a part of?
Well, we have to keep the faith. I think we've both been knocked back.
Absolutely, but it doesn't
Recently,
stop us
you know,
from
but
doesn't
still
stop
doing
us
it,
doing
yeah.
it because
Yeah, 'cause we
believe
believe
it and we love it. And it's kind of, you know, someone might, you know, turn around and say, well, actually, can we have your story? And that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
You know, or someone might come and find you and go, oh, we've heard about you, and be like, well, how? Because we don't leave anything out there for them to hear about.
Yeah, for sure.
There's lots of fragmented stories, but if they decided to join them together, they might be surprised at what Luton has and what it's been doing for years. And you've got all these people we spoke about who are out there working internationally.
Yeah.
And they're all here, they're still here.
I'm still here doing it.
Still here.
Yeah, and kind of get ignored in the big picture, man.
They get,
So,
absolutely.
never mind.
Because the people who are in those positions, they haven't done their research. They don't go out and seek these people and to have these conversations.
Well, I think we touched on it earlier, it's all about trust. They don't trust anybody.
Yeah, they don't. Well, we're the ones who should trust and have trust issues, but the people in those positions, they come to do a job and they don't know who to speak to. And when they do find out who to speak to, they don't know how to treat them because they don't know the story. And part of being a part of the art world, you do research, and it's something that you did to understand what you can create and what space you're working in.
Sure.
And they never do that because they come to a space and they're in that space and they think they occupy that space, therefore that is the space, so everyone should come to them. But those spaces, they've created all the issues that these people don't want to come to.
Yeah, it's that kind of hierarchy that's
Absolutely.
created that doesn't have any kind of true connection.
No, not at all.
Anyway.
Yeah, it is. It's mad, but we're the lucky ones. We've been the ones that've been exposed to our art, and we live in our art. And you know, the next things I can do, even if I can't perform as a dancer, I can choreograph, and then I could create a group that might be able to perform because I know how to do it because I've done it, and that's going to be interesting if I be able to do that. But I also know that I still want to dance, and I'm thinking, ooh, that's interesting because I'm injured, and if I get over that injury, would I have the same energy or don't know. Got all those things to find out.
So that's to chop your legs off.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, my mum told me a story. She says, well, your great uncle, he had one good leg, and he used to love to dance. And I thought, well, maybe that might be he.
Perry, thanks so much, man.
Pleasure, honestly, pleasure.
We'll keep in touch anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
And,
definitely, bro. Seriously.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, it's madness, isn't it? I know, it's mad, absolutely mad.